I'm Mary Polcheninoff, and welcome to Sure Things. As we continue to deal with this pandemic, we're in month 7 now, I've tried to bring some resources to help us get through. Today I'm very excited to introduce a good friend of mine that I've worked with throughout the years. He is a coach, an instructor, a trainer, an author, and most important, he's a dad. Mm-hmm. I'd like to welcome Andy Dousis. Hi, Andy.
Hi, how are you, Mary?
Good, good. I'm excited to have you here.
It's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
So we go back, I was trying to think the other day how many years, and I'm thinking like 8 years maybe.
I believe it's 8 or 9.
8 or 9 years, right,
Yep.
right. And we've worked together in the school system.
Yes.
Which was wonderful. You came in as a trainer and coach to the staff, which we appreciated on that. And now, were you always involved in what you're doing now? Maybe you could tell us a bit about yourself and what you're into right now.
Yeah, it's been a long journey.
Yeah.
When I hooked up with you guys, that was a couple years after I had left the Northeast Foundation for Children. I'd worked for them part-time about 7 years, and I was full-time on their staff, traveling all over the country for about 5 years. And in 2010, I left them. And I believe it was 2012, 2011 that I started up with you guys. And it was just a few days a year, and then that grew as we began to spread some of the things that we were working on, trying to build capacity within the district. So,
and I just have to say, you coming into our building, to our school, the elementary school at Norton, your energy and willingness to get on the floor with the children and to sit with teachers and handle the hard questions, answer any questions we had from parents. It was so supportive to our whole learning community.
Well,
so
thank you.
I really enjoyed that part too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, you know, I've been doing that, same thing, pretty much Northeast these days. I no longer take California work or Texas work or anything like that. Just, there's plenty to do right around here. I have a big client base in New York City. I support a lot of the schools in the Bronx, a couple that I've been going to just continuously, and they have my heart down there, so it's hard to break away. And just trying to support them in every way that we can. You know, the instructional piece, the community piece, the management piece are all important. They all have to be fed. Yes. Everybody thinks that folks come into parenting or teaching knowing how to do it, and we don't. It's an learn on the job type.
It is, as I reflect back, right, as we both have children, we think about that.
Yeah.
In your work working with children, with both parents and with teachers, what areas do you focus on mainly at this point?
Well, I think in today's world, we have to be cognizant of all 5 developmental areas. We have physical development, linguistic, cognitive, emotional, and social. All 5 are important. And as parents, we must make sure that we're paying attention to them. And we sometimes, without being aware, our children develop those things based on what they see us doing. So I think the most important thing to communicate is that we are the models. You know, as parents, our children look at us, they watch us. Some of the earliest words that our children speak is a result of mimicking. You know, they watch us form our letters and our sounds with our mouths, and they begin to do the same thing. And dads are thrilled because often the first word is da, da. Oh, he or she said dad.
Happy with that one.
Yeah. And that's true about all developmental areas. And I think at this time, knowing how hard it is to be a parent in general, particularly hard right now. I was thinking just a few weeks back, I had done this presentation for Stony Brook University, and one of the things that I was wondering was, dang, my mom would have been driven crazy if my brother and I were 13, 14, 15 years old, and she was trying to corral us to quarantine and to do my schoolwork sitting at a computer. I was not equipped for that.
And that's another great reason why we're talking today, because there are so many parents, even though schools are opening up, some shut down, they open back up, or it's part-time, it's hybrid still. So, and I've heard from so many parents, you know, that I've spoken with, that it has been such a challenging time. They love their children, but they have taken on this extra role of being an educator or supporting the educational part, and it's been tough.
And all those developmental areas need our attention.
Yeah.
And for instance, the physical piece. We forget that schools are active. Kids are moving around. They're going from one place to the other, and hopefully they have school systems that value movement.
Yeah.
And it's part of the learning day, not just through physical education, but also through the other subject areas that movement is promoted through the learning. That's a developmental area that parents are struggling with now, and how to keep their kids active, and children that were involved with dance or martial arts or softball or volleyball, those things got shut down.
Do you have suggestions for that? I mean, that's a great topic right there.
So number one, like I said earlier, the most important thing I think is that we model, that we ourselves take care of us.
Yeah.
And if we're working hard at that, taking care of ourselves physically, in all the other developmental areas. So physically, what does that look like? Am I eating well? Am I getting good sleep? Am I modeling exercise? Do I have some sort of exercise program? For a lot of adults, they started to do YouTube yoga or YouTube karate.
There's so much,
A lot of folks got those Peloton. Is that
you got it, Peloton. That's
they bought
very
those
popular.
things. That stock went up. So hopefully, kids are seeing that, and kids are beginning to do that too. That they are finding ways to stay active. Nothing wrong with a family walk either. Think about all the development areas that are happening. If the family commits to a few times a week, taking a walk for 45 minutes to an hour. Think of the social interaction that's going to happen during that time, the linguistic piece that's happening, and of course the physical.
It is such a needed part with all the sports and after-school activities curtailed.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
So we have the physical part. I know you mentioned the 5 areas.
Yes.
And what other area are you going to
So the social
discuss?
piece is huge. Schools are, designed for us to develop socially. We know that the greatest cognitive growth occurs through social interaction. Humans gather around something to learn about, and it's how we go about it that will accelerate the learning that occurs. And having that yanked away, that possibility yanked away, we parents have to make sure that we are allowing for that at home. So the child that may have a small group in school that they're collaborating with, or a partner that they're discussing a linear equation around, doesn't have that person or those people necessarily now. So guess who's up? That's us.
That's a parent.
And how we go about it is so critical. And in schools, we make, we take great effort to try to promote proper engagement with another human being. That we try to get children to listen to the other children really well, to ask questions, to acknowledge, to recognize when someone's saying, to echo back what's being said. And we implement things like accountable talk, where we teach children stems, and parents would be well served to do a little Googling around, what is accountable talk? What does that look and sound like? How do I not take over the learning from my kid?
That is a key. I actually have had that discussion with people. Here they are working at home, supporting the education. How do they step away and not want to, wait a minute, let me just rewrite it one more time?
Yeah.
That's got to be a challenge.
Tough stuff. And one thing we don't have to worry about is the tech piece, because the kids are blowing us away with that one. So they're teaching us. But yes, so how do we do that? What questions do we ask? How do we support our kids? And I think that, like I mentioned earlier, the modeling piece is a huge piece of development. And if we are orchestrating our social actions in a way that is promoting good social interaction, our children are more likely to work with us. And
okay, so that's an interesting topic. I don't mean to cut you off. That's an interesting topic, because in the time of having to be so careful with the pandemic, a lot of the students and the children's social activities were curtailed. And parents have been on the fence on, how do I do this? How do I provide the social interaction they need? I understand with the modeling part, they can see, but how do we help the children then also with that social piece?
Getting together.
Yeah,
oh boy. So the how do kids today get together? It's a lot different than when I was a teenager. We hung out at this place called the Gazebo, which the parents at the time hated. But that's where we did our engagement with one another. And kids today don't hang out at the gazebo. They hang out on Snapchat and Instagram and all these different things. And we might not like it, but my dad had Elvis. His parents hated Elvis.
They didn't like Elvis, right?
I had the gazebo. My parents hated that. And a lot of parents hate all this tech stuff that kids are involved in. But there may be some strengths to it. But we must monitor it. We need to take responsibility as parents. If that's going to be the main part of their social interaction, we need to know, are they clear on the parameters that we expect as a family?
Yeah.
What are the guidelines, and who's their peer group?
Right.
We have a right to know that.
You have to know that.
My mom had a right to know who was at the gazebo.
Right. And I think some children push back on that. They feel that that's their computer, that's their device, it's private. So that is I know a battle that some parents, even up through the grades, they battle with that. But then the other piece that I know parents worry about is the potential damage that a social media type issues can wreak on their children.
Yes.
It can wreak havoc on them.
Just like in school.
Right.
So
right. Just
like in school. If things aren't going well in school, there could be a lot of damage that could be done. So anytime we take a group of humans and put them together, if there is not a good ethos, not a good culture, if folks don't know how to communicate, we need to model for our children how to cut off bad relationships.
Okay.
And that needs to happen in social media too.
Yeah.
So I think that it's always going to go, for me, it's always going to go back to the model.
Right.
And that if we as parents engage inappropriately with others, if we are doing things or even having side chatter in front of our kids about other people, gossiping, bullying, those kinds of things, our kids will learn those things. If you show me a child who acts as a bully, I could probably trace that back to someone in their family, a sibling or a parent, that in some way, maybe even unintentionally, had modeled that for that child at some point. There's a lot that could be said about the social media piece and how that could be bettered.
Yeah.
But I think we need to go beyond that too. And as families, especially now, if we are washing our hands, if we are wearing masks, if we are checking with the other families, and maybe we create a pod that we gather with, that we get our kids together so that they can sit in the same room anyway and watch their phones together. That's probably what they'll do. But it's not going to be easy. But how do we win? We win by planning. So just willy-nilly from the hip stuff is not going to happen. So as families, we have to take the time and think about who's our kid, what are they like. Don't do all this stuff. Kind of do this. Work with them. Stand on their side and figure out some ways to get them with their friends in a safe way, and promote the other safety pieces that we have to because of the virus.
Yeah, I like the way you frame it. Not only promoting the social, but the modeling part to help them for their social development, which is great.
Mary, it is so important.
It's so important. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to address yet another topic. Be right back.
They're coming. Places, everybody.
Light check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Everything looks good on our end.
And lights.
Come alive with the forest. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
They said I have troll teeth.
That my voice sounded like a possessed baby doll.
That no one would ever love someone as stupid as me.
That I was fat, ugly.
Disgusting.
The effect of bullying is potent.
We will no longer be the silent majority.
Now, when you see online bullying, there's something you can do about it.
We're gonna take action with the I.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness, and so are you.
Hi, welcome back to Sure Things. I'm here with Andy Dousis. We're talking about how to support parents with their children during this very challenging time. So Andy, we were talking before the break about how parents can help support children with their social development.
Yeah.
And I did want to get a little bit into their emotional development. Well, you actually mentioned that too as one of the 5 areas. Can you talk to us a bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. So when we think about emotional development, it's huge. All the developmental areas are huge. They have broad, areas that need attention. And there's no way as a parent you can pay attention to all of the different pieces around social development or emotional development. Yeah. And what we must try to do is pick a few. What are a few things that we want our kids to be good at? And I would say that listening, while it's also a social skill, there are pieces to it that are emotional as well, like being able to wait my turn, being able to hold back, being able to put together a thought. Those kinds of things we can certainly model. We talk about linguistic development, engaging one another, having conversations with our kids that we don't ball hog. A lot of times parents engage their kids and it's the parent doing all the talking. So how do we find a way to allow that child to do their own thinking, to make their own decisions, to formulate what it is, to put it out on a table, what it is they're feeling at that moment, and to ask that question, hey, how you feeling, kiddo? I'm not talking, and it could be while you're making a sandwich. Sometimes that's better if we, it's not this kind of thing.
Right.
This is awkward. No one likes this.
Right. And I've always heard also that while you're in the car is another time.
Fantastic.
You're focusing on something else. It's a great time to open the conversation.
Yes.
On listening. And I know, I'm thinking back, because of course we're reflecting on our roles as moms and dads as well.
Yeah.
About how difficult it is for a parent, especially when you're stressed with the work and the home and whatever else you have going on. Mm-hmm. And you might ask that question, how was your day? And then your mind's off on, how much longer for the pot roast. So I'm wondering also what support do you say to parents to make sure that they not only ask the question, but that they're really listening on that?
Yeah, you have to practice.
Yeah, okay.
You have to be intentional. Mm-hmm. If you're going to get good at anything, it's foul shots, hitting a golf ball, you need to be intentional. And one of my urgencies, like I said before, you can't try to be great at everything, but you could be good at a few different things. So if listening's the one that you're going to work on, it's going to help your child an awful lot. If asking questions that don't kick somebody back or that allow them to open up, that's going to be important. How we go about that, so the what's important, right? But the how is too. And you talked about driving in the car, and that's definitely a strategy, especially for men and for males. When males square off, that means time to wrestle or grapple. So, to maybe while you're making the sandwich, you're not even making you're making casual eye contact. Hey, Mary, how's it going today? And then shut up, let her talk. What's a follow-up question that I can ask? Well, how does that make you feel? So-and-so Snapchatted that my hair needs to be purple instead of green. So how does that make you feel? Have you had a conversation with her? And see where it goes.
Do you think that helps with the preteen or the older child that is just resistant to opening up, like whatever?
I think it's true for all of us.
You think it's true for all guys?
I do. I feel like no one wants this.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that. Don't put me on a hot seat. We shouldn't be doing that to kids. We're always putting kids on hot seats. One of the things that drives me crazy in schools is that often when a kid's come off the rails, we gather, 3 or 4 adults around that kid. And we're typically bigger in stature, and we're a lot more agile with our linguistics, and we know the world better. It's not a fair fight. And the kids feel like they're knocked back on their heels. Right. So be careful with that as parents too. Should we at times both speak to our child? Sure. How we go about it is going to make a difference. A lot of times I feel like what should be taken care of one-on-one should be taken care of one-on-one. Now, if dad has an issue, dad should talk to the child. If mom has an issue, it shouldn't be mom's talking to the child over an issue that dad has.
Oh, interesting.
Or vice versa.
Okay. Interesting.
That's a bad model.
Yeah.
You know, because what do we want folks to do? If you have an issue with somebody, you should speak to them.
Yeah.
Don't speak about them. Speak to them.
So true.
You know, build the relationship, engage. You know, embrace other people, not tolerate other people. Embrace them.
Yeah.
Get to know them.
Yeah.
So how do we get to know our kids? We get to know our kids by listening, by paying attention, by finding out what their passions are, which I think is a huge piece to emotional development, just development in general.
Right.
And we as parents need to acknowledge that there are certain things our kids like to do, and they're good at. How do we feed that? How do we stay involved with it, and not push them too hard in crazy kinds of ways? Now, we're also, as parents, I think, responsible for making sure that all developmental areas are addressed. And one of the ways to help us with that is what is our schedule? What's our weekly schedule? You know, do we have a couple nights where we make sure we sit down and eat dinner together? That's hard in the American family today. So that conversation can happen.
Well, yeah, it's so interesting you're saying that, because now I'm thinking of all the other areas that can be addressed. As you said, at that one meal, or the whatever days you sit down and have that, it's all the linguistics, emotional, and social that you can address. Right there to help that. To help them support
Those are huge pieces, and they sort of went away. I mean, back in the day, you know, families would gather on Sunday with extended families and have a big meal, and that's when you got to know multiple generations and your little cousins and your grandparents.
You had all the support there too.
A lot of development.
A lot of support there.
I think as a society we actually are hooked in on leaning on school systems and ball clubs and all that for these developmental things that used to happen in other kinds of ways. So now it's been put back on our plates. We got to, you know, there was every Sunday you went to your aunt's or you went to your grandmother's. So what do we do now every Sunday? Or what's Tuesday? You know, you know, Tuesday a certain kind of night that we take a walk. You know, what's our schedule? You know, what time do we go to bed? What time do we get up? Those things are going to be important now, and that's hard to manage when it comes to parenting an adolescent. And a little guy too. It seems to get okay for elementary, then it gets wacky again. It does.
It's a challenge for sure for those parents. It sounds like you mentioned too, it seems like the parents step up with the modeling and really their accountability piece, because they're accountable for their actions. And that amount of guidance that they show the kids.
Yes, so accountability, right? That's a huge piece. And how do children learn accountability? By watching their parents. So if I goof as a parent, I'm accountable for fixing that. And I think that would be a fantastic thing to model. How do I, you know what, let's say you were my daughter, you know what, Mary, I was wrong. I shouldn't have said that. And if I had a second chance, here's what I would have said. I hope you forgive me.
And
that sort of stuff, a lot of parents aren't ready to do that, and we need to. And if there's a certain emotion that I would urge parents to try to manage really well, especially now, it would be anger. And because we're all stressed, and we're going to be angry at times, and different families are feeling different stresses, and how do we model our anger with our kids? You know, what does that look and sound like? You know, it's like, Mary, I'm really angry right now. We're going to have to talk later. Is 4 o'clock or 6 o'clock better for you?
Nice. You give them that decision, that choice too.
Yes.
And you're probably a lot calmer, hopefully, by 4 or 6 to deal with it, to deal with whatever issue that was at that time. Well, Andy, this is all very helpful, and there's just so much more I know that people can go to your Instagram and everything and get some ideas from you, which is wonderful.
Certainly.
But what is something else that you'd like to leave our viewers with?
You know, I think that as parents, number one, we have to take care of ourselves. And because if we're not healthy in all those developmental areas, then we're going to be in trouble. And I want us to also think about one more thing. Tech. Is it a developmental area? And I never thought that it was until about 6 weeks ago when I was prepping for this work I had to do. It has a continuum to it. And it's got me freaked out because I'm not hearing other developmentalists talk about it. Because I'm aware of my tech development and the development of my children. So I would say that, you know, take care of ourselves, think about where tech fits in and how it mashes up against the developmental areas, because it has implications for all 5 of the ones that I mentioned before. And some of them can be good, like the Peloton.
Yes, Peloton.
That's a tech piece, right?
That is a very big tech piece, right?
But it helps us physically.
It does. It's a wonderful.
So,
right.
you know,
Yeah.
if tech is in its own developmental area,
Yeah.
it certainly has influence on,
Impact on
the
the
other
others.
5: cognitive
Yeah,
development,
right.
linguistic development.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
crazy.
thank you.
It's
Well,
a lot.
Yeah, no, it is a lot, but thank you. And I know we only touched on some of it briefly, but I want to thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Mary.
I want to encourage everyone to go to Andy's website and Instagram, and please learn more information about his support and ideas that he has. So thank you. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye.